What's up guys, and welcome to another video. And in this video I'm going to be explaining to you guys every single most important thing that you kind of need to know to improve at this game, right? And basically at any game, and largely actually at anything in life. Because I believe that a lot of the advice that you can use to get better at Rocket League is also the exact same advice that applies to really pretty much any field. So whether you're a Rocket League player, you play any other games, you play sports, you play whatever, you can take something away from this video, and I can definitely guarantee that there will be at least one point, but I truly believe that all of them help, but there will at least be one point that maybe you haven't heard or you haven't thought about enough, or maybe it's just a reminder. And there is something, I think, genuinely for all ranks and all types of people in this video. So let's get right into tip one, which is that you need to play to improve and not to rank up. And a lot of people kind of don't understand this kind of philosophy, and they think that, well, naturally we should be playing to win, right? And like you can kind of, you can do both, right? You can play to win and you can play to improve at the same time. Why would those two be, any different from each other? And that's what a lot of people think. And it's actually wrong. Because the thing is, very, very often, you cannot always focus on ranking up if you're trying to improve. So what I mean by that is, if you want to maximize your improvement, right, you need to find out what your mistakes are. And once you do find out what your mistakes are, you need to actively focus on fixing them. And the thing is that some mistakes, sometimes when you want to fix them, at first you're going to play worse. You're actually not going to have this, linear graph going upwards where you're just, getting better, getting better, getting better. At first you might be worse. And a great example that I have of that is right now, I'm on new keybinds, right? I switched my boost and my arrow right. So now I'm using my right bumper to boost, as you guys can see with the overlay as well. And before I used the default one, which was B on controller and I think circle on PlayStation, right? And I had like 5,000 hours in this game of muscle memory on it. So you can imagine that when I swapped, I got worse, right? At first. And I still think that I am, a bit worse because it's literally only been like a couple of days. But the reason I made this change is because I know that in the future, given enough time, it will benefit me, right? So it's like all kinds of things like that, which, it doesn't always have to be a setting change, but it can be anything in your playstyle. For example, maybe you're really bad at shadow defending. If you want to get really good at shadow defending, when right now you might suck, maybe you will play 1v1s and you'll literally just give your opponent the ball and let them attack. So then you could just have more times of shadow defense. That's a tactic that you could use, right, to improve faster because you're not going to be wasting any time, attacking. You're basically just going to get way more repetitions in of the skill that you're trying to learn or get better at. So then you end up improving faster at the skill. But in the short term, you will end up losing, more ranked games. Also, for me, right, learning or like, yeah, I mean, for me, but also for a lot of other people, I think, is like, if you learn a mechanic, right? Let's say you learned flip resets, right? And you thought they were a really cool mechanic, and then, you wanted to improve at them. So then you went into, free play and you did a bunch of practice and stuff. And now you want to like try it in ranked games, right? Because you've heard that, you should apply things to ranked and whatever, right? So then you try it in a ranked game, and then you miss, and then you get scored on, right? And a lot of people will get discouraged by that. They will see that as a thing like, oh, well, no, I shouldn't do this again. I shouldn't do it anymore in ranked. Or even maybe if they're partied up, maybe their friend will tell them, yo, stop doing this. We're getting scored on because of it. Stop doing it. And then they'll get this like negative kind of, discouragement from trying these mechanics that they're learning. And guess what? You will never get good at any mechanics ever if you do not practice, if you do not try. If you only ever do them in free play, you're only ever going to be able to do them in free play, right? It's like you can only get good at things that you actually try. Truly. You can only ever get good at things that you actually try, right? It literally does not matter how much you do it in a specific scenario. If you do not do it in the scenario that you actually know, that matters most, which is, your ranked games, then you're never gonna get good at it. So the point is that like at first, when you're doing those flip resets, you're gonna play worse. You're gonna lose some of your rank, and that's fine because in the long term, right? You have to look long term. Once you get really good at that skill, you will use that same skill, whatever skill it is, right? But in this example, flip resets, you will use that skill to then take you back to the MMR that you were before. And because you're a better player than before, you're actually going to reach higher, right? So the point is that, yes, you, in the short term, temporarily, you go down, but over the long term, you only, not only do you get back to baseline, but you surpass that baseline and you go beyond what you were capable of before, right? That's as simple as it is. And to do this effectively, you need to play to improve. You need to like forget about your rank and understand, sure, I might lose some points right now, but that's completely fine because a week from now or a month from now, I'm literally going to be so much of a better player purely because of that, right? And that's the kind of mindset you need to have. And this is very easy to forget. You know, I've forgot about this a lot over the years, and I was reminded of this by, you know, my coach who told me to do it when I was, you know, I changed my keybinds and I was kind of getting, you know, tilted in my games, right? Because I was playing badly, and you know, compared to the level I was at before. But I had to realize that, you know, if I just trust the process and if I just keep playing the game, I keep grinding, and I, you know, just literally just trust the process, like it's the number one thing, then I will eventually get better. And I know that I'm going to hit SSL because of this change that if I never made, I would have stayed stuck in GC3, right? And I just know that. So yeah, that's tip number one. Play to improve, not to rank up. Now, as for tip number two, this is a very interesting one that I have a lot of love for, and that is really important to me, that I don't really hear many people talking about, which is that you should train what you genuinely find fun in the game, right? So the thing is, this can be taken in a couple of ways. And the kind of, I guess, the general line is to just keep the game fun because it is a video game after all, right? So even if you're trying to improve, you're never going to improve if it's not enjoyable, right? Like there's, and this is not just a thing, you know, in video games. It's like you, a lot of you might have heard the saying that goes something like, "The best gym split is the one that gets you to, you know, step foot in the gym, right? That gets you to actually go." And it's very true because like you could do, you know, what's quote unquote the most optimal, you know, the like most science-based, you know, same with Rocket League, right? Like the most optimal training pack for training this skill or whatever. But the thing is, if you don't enjoy that training pack, guess how many times you're gonna do that training pack? Maybe once when you first discover it, you're gonna like, you know, force yourself to do it. You're gonna be like, yes, now I'm gonna improve. And then guess what? You're gonna do it, and then you're gonna realize, yeah, this is not fun at all. This is so boring, or oh, this is just not enjoyable at all. And then you're gonna realize that, well, I can't do this. So then now you just don't do anything. So what I'm telling you is to kind of shortcut that process and don't even try these things that you think are not gonna be fun. Now, obviously, you can give it one try, right? Like if you think, if you don't know that you won't like it, then sure, you know, I would always give one attempt for everything, like a training pack, a game mode, whatever. You know, I would try it. And even every now and then try it again. Because like sometimes, you know, you might think, oh no, training packs are so boring. But then every once in a while, maybe you'll try one, and then you'll be like, oh, actually, right now I do feel like playing it, right? I don't actually feel like just grinding free play. I do want to do some training packs, right? And you can kind of discover these new things, or you know, old things, but like kind of rediscover them, and make it enjoyable again, right? So that's like about the kind of the training aspect of it. So like which method you use, right? Because the thing is like there's workshops, there's free play, there's custom packs. All of them work. All of them work. Like there's not a single one that does not work for the goal of improving your mechanics. So literally the only difference between them is just what do you want to do? What makes you get up in the morning and be like, yes, I can't wait to do this today. If you play the game and you're like, oh, I have to do training packs today, bro. Like, then like, guess what, bro? You're not gonna do those freaking training packs. Like, I was always excited, or well, not always, but for the last like few months, like I want to say like the last like 4 or 5 months, I've just loved playing free play. Like I would love to get on the game, and like I am right now, and just get in here in free play and just start scoring like different types of shots and going for cool mechanics and trying to get better at specific skills. And it's like I enjoy that, but I still, like I said, I still, do other stuff sometimes, right? Like I change myself to kind of try things that I haven't maybe done in a while. So, oh, well, I'll try this training pack. And then I found, okay, I actually quite enjoyed it, right? So like, do make it, fun, obviously. Do keep it fun. Don't like make the game boring. Don't make the game a chore, right? You never want your video game that you're playing to be like a chore. You don't want it to be a, work, right? So that doesn't really ever do good. But do still try stuff every now and then. And now this kind of a little bit moves on to game number or to tip number 3 rather, which is that you need to, in my opinion, challenge yourself consistently in Rocket League for you to actually improve. Now, what does that mean? Because challenge yourself is a very like general like term, right? Like what does it in more specifically like detail? What does it mean to challenge yourself? Basically, it means to do stuff that is hard purely because it is hard. And that's like exactly the thing that will improve you the most, right? Like difficulty is quite like strongly correlated with value. So it's not one for one, just something being harder does not mean it is more valuable, but a lot of the time it is. So for example, right, you need to do hard things to get good and to improve. A good example of this, right, is the gym again. If you go and you do, a set for a muscle group, and you do it with a weight and an amount of reps that you can do very easily, right? Your heart rate doesn't even go up. You're just chilling. Like it's very simple for you. And if you do that every single week for a year, there's literally going to be zero growth. There's going to be no change in your skill effectively, right? In that exercise. And it's the same way with Rocket League skill. If you always do exactly what is comfortable for you and what is easy for you, then you will never improve. Like, let me show you this. I could take this one flip reset and then do this and then, finish, right? And I could shoot that and I could be, good at the single flip reset, right? When I learned it, I did this a lot, like shoot like this. And it's good to get good at that. It's very, very good. It's good to get good at it. But once you can do it very easily and very consistently, then like, what is the point? Because, nowadays, if I did this, there's basically no improvement in it for me because I can already do it. Like, I'm not improving at flip resets by, doing the same shot over and over again when it's in such a simple form that, there's not like that much difficulty to it. So because of that, right, I started challenging myself and I started, after I get the first one, maybe I go for a rapid for the second, right? Already much more difficult. Okay. Then when you get, double rapids, then maybe you can go for, instead of going for a double, you go for a, reset musty, or you go for a reset musty double. Like there's always stuff that you can add to make it more difficult. And this isn't just, with flip resets, because I know most people, they can't do flip resets and they don't need to do flip resets in most ranks. But this applies to anything. Like if I want to get good at flicks and I just do this front flip flick, eventually I'm going to be able to do front flip flicks so well, or, speed flip flicks or whatever you want to, I'm going to get so good at this flick that like training it more is not going to bring me any benefit. Like I'm not going to get any more power if I do front flip flicks every day than I am right now. Like it's the same thing, right? Because it's too basic of a version for my skill for it to be challenging and for it to improve me. So you only get better at things that challenge you. So then if instead I'm like, okay, I can do the front flip flick, I can do the speed flip flick. Okay, let me do the 45-degree flick, right? Because this one, I cannot do every single time perfectly. Sometimes I'm going to get bangers like that, but then sometimes maybe, I'll get a flick like this, or I'll actually just mess up the flick like, okay, well, I didn't mess it up there, but, I'm not always going to hit this flick, like that maybe. You know, that's a really soft one. That's like pretty bad, right? I'm not 100% consistent at it every time. So like until I can hit this 45-degree flick, you know, 100 times in a row or something, you know, with good accuracy and good power, I can't say that I'm, you know, that I am really good at it. And the thing is, like, I am improving at the 45-degree flick right now by doing it because it's something that does challenge me. Now, this thing doesn't challenge me super much because, right, I'm still getting it, like, pretty, you know, often. This is kind of a shot that I'm more often getting than I'm not getting. But again, like the double resets. If I do 50 attempts of double resets, there's more attempts where I'm missing than there are that I'm hitting it, which means it is a mechanic that does challenge me, right? So the point that I'm trying to make is that if you really want to get good at this game, you need to step out of your comfort zone sometimes, you know? You need to do things that are difficult because those are the things that will lead to the most kind of improvement. So like if you're a player who plays a lot of twos or maybe even a lot of threes, right? And you're not very good mechanically, you kind of think of yourself more as, you know, a smart player and a kind of, you know, more defensive player and this like, you know, passive type of playstyle. Maybe you could try to play some ones, right? You could try to play some ones and it would challenge you a lot because, well, in there, you don't have your teammates to back you up. You don't have any backup. You don't have any help. You do not have anything. It's literally just you, your decision making, your mechanics against another player, right? And that is a form of challenging yourself. And it can literally be with anything. It can be with the mechanics you train, with the shots you go for, in both, you know, free play like here, but also in ranked games. You know, like I'm going for double resets and triple resets and stuff in free play, you know, to practice my aerial car control and stuff. But like in games, I have to also do it, you know? Again, like I can't challenge myself in free play when there's, you know, no pressure, but not challenge myself in real games. So I'm going for these exact same shots sometimes in ranked games. Like I will go for in a ranked game for the sidewall musty into a pop reset, right? I will go for that because the thing is that's a way to challenge myself. Because right now I have a lot less challenge on me than I would with doing the same exact shot in a ranked game. Because firstly, I have unlimited boost. Secondly, there's no defenders. Third, there's no pressure. Um, and probably maybe a couple more things, but at least those three, right? Just off the top of my head. Which means that like the challenge, the most kind of that you are going to challenge yourself is always going to be in ranked games. So again, one thing that is kind of with all of these tips in this video is that you have to apply it all in ranked. If you only do these things in casual or free play or training packs, none of it will matter. It's all very important for you to do in actual ranked games. Now, if we move on to tip number 4, which is that you should always play with intention and focus, right? So both in ranked and in training. So let's start with ranked. When you're playing ranked, you need to be actively thinking about the game. You need to actively be engaged in the game. You don't want to be distracted. You don't want to be playing while doing other things or thinking about other things, right? It's like if you're playing Rocket League and you got your homework on the back of your mind, you're not going to play your best. If you're playing Rocket League and you're in a voice chat, you know, in a call or something on Discord with like 5 different friends and they're all like talking about other stuff and you're, you know, talking with them and stuff, you're not going to be focused on the game. Now, do not get me wrong. I'm not trying to put people off of doing things, you know, while playing. If that's what you want to do, sure. That's completely fine. I don't really care, right? You guys have the free will to do whatever you want to do. Whatever you find fun, right? If you're playing the game for fun. But if you're watching this video, you want to improve. And for maximally to kind of improve yourself in this game and in anything in life, again, you need to do it with focus. You need to be undistracted by anything and just be lasered in on the game, you know? Like, I know that I will play much, much better when I'm not reading my Twitch chat, like literally as I'm playing, right? Like I will only read it, you know, between goals, for example. I know that when I do that, I'd play a lot better compared to, you know, when I'm like reading a mid game while I'm driving around. I know that. So then, you know, I won't do it if I'm trying to like fully lock in. Now, am I saying that every single ranked game that you ever play, you know, you should be locked in lasered? You don't have to. But again, the more you do it, the more high quality your games are going to be, which means that the more results you're probably going to get, right? So that's kind of the ranked aspect of it. It's just like, if you want to play the best in ranked, you need to have the focus. And the thing with intention now is intention goes a little bit more for training, but it does also go for ranked in the sense that what does intention for ranked mean? Intention for ranked basically means that you have a goal or something that you want to do, right, in your ranked games that you're actively working on. So, like, you can actively work on stuff in training. Like, right now, I'm mostly working on my aerial car control, right, by going for a lot of different aerial shots. So it's kind of a general skill, like aerial car control, but I'm kind of combining it with plays off the walls and, you know, double taps and flip resets and stuff like that, right? That's my kind of training focus right now. But I can tell you that in my ranked games, I have a completely different focus, right? In my ranked games, my current focuses, for example, are staying further back from my teammate, not getting too close to them, and secondly, to kind of not really like overcommit, right, and kind of play a bit more passively in the opponent's area. And then third, I have that, you know, I need to take time more, right? I need to be aware of where the opponents are and take time. So those were, for example, I can literally tell you off the top of my head, which are the 3 things that I'm focusing on every single day right now when I go into my ranked games, right? But if I ask you the same thing, can you tell me? Do you have a specific set of things? It doesn't have to be a lot, right? Literally one thing is better than like nothing. Like, I would rather you have one thing than you have 10 things. Because the thing is, you know, you can never think about a ton of stuff, so you don't want to be overwhelmed while you're playing, but you also don't want to, you know, have literally no intention. You don't want to have, you just kind of go into the games and the goal is like, oh, well, I just want to win games. Like, no. Again, right? Like the first tip. We're playing to improve, not just to rank up. Because we know that once we improve and we become the player who deserves the rank that we want to get to, then we will rank up anyway, and the rank will follow. So, for us to optimally improve, we need to have that focus, that intention. So, if you can't tell me right now off the top of your head, without really like taking more than, I don't know, 10 seconds to think about it, what are your current intentions? What are you working on in your rank games? And it's fine if you don't have one right now. You know, there's no shame in that. A lot of people don't. Most people don't. But if you truly want to improve, I really suggest you find those out. And now you might be confused. How do I find those out? How do I figure out what I should work on? Well, it's very simple. It's very, very simple. You literally just have to realize what your mistakes are. And the way to do that is essentially the next tip, which is that you need to look at your replays, right? To understand what your mistakes are, you need to look at your replays and just analyze them in a kind of objective way. So don't look at what your teammates are doing. Don't think, oh, well, but my teammate could have saved this. In a replay review, you should only look at yourself, right? Look at what you're doing, what you could have done better in each play. Even if your teammate completely misses the ball and is, you know, at fault, look for the one thing that you could have done better. Because a lot of the time, even if your teammate full trolls, you could have still done something better. And then as you're looking at your replay, place kind of specific focus onto when the goals happen, right? When you're conceding. Because that's usually when the biggest mistakes are. So a lot of the time, you'll see that, you know, maybe as kind of second man, you're rotating all the way back, you know, you're going for corner boost when your teammate's attacking, and then you end up in a 2v1 because your teammate overcommits. He tries to, you know, pass middle thinking that you're in the play, but you're actually just in your corner getting corner boost. So then you end up getting 2v1, then you end up getting, you know, them out or something. Now you might think, well, my teammate just passed him the ball, but if you look at it objectively and you don't cope and you try to really look for what you did wrong, you would notice, oh, I could have taken small pads and stayed middle on this play, But instead, I actually ended up trolling by going all the way back for that corner boost, right? And that's how you do it. And you have this little notepad, which I recommend everyone to have if you're doing a replay review, and essentially just look at the game, and then write down what it is that you're focusing on, or what you think you should focus on. So the things that you should focus on are not these one-time mistakes. They're not, the thing where like you literally did this thing once, but it's most of the time the mistakes that you're repeatedly making, right? It's the ones that you're constantly kind of struggling with. Like if you have multiple goals among, through multiple games and stuff that you're doing, then that should be the thing. And you might say but how do I know what my mistakes are? I don't know what my mistakes are. And that's completely, acceptable. And it's very, very understandable because in most ranks, you simply just don't really have the game understanding to be able to notice all of your mistakes. And, notice all that. So for that, all I can honestly say is maybe get a better player, right? Get a better player who's higher ranked than you to just look at your games. Now, obviously, I'm a coach on MetaFi, so I'm gonna recommend you, look me up and book a session with me if you're interested with that. But the thing is, like, you don't need to do that. Maybe you have a friend who's higher ranked. If maybe you just know some people. Maybe you're in some Rocket League servers. Asking around if some higher ranked players would look at your games, can be a very good thing to do. I actually just saw the other day in my own Discord that I think some GC player had looked at a champs or maybe a diamonds, I don't really remember, gameplay, right? And then they had to actually help them how to improve. So like, it's all just about what are you willing to do to have that help, right? It's super doable for anyone to have, or to find a person to help them watch through their games. It's just really how much are you like willing to put into that. Now, the next tip that I have for you guys is that you need to understand your weaknesses and your strengths, right? And you need to actively work on both. Now, this is something that I genuinely don't think I've ever really seen anyone talking about on YouTube. At least definitely not in Rocket League. And I think it's very interesting because, like I said in the last thing, right? Like to look at replays, what everyone always looks at is weaknesses, which in a replay, sure, yeah, you should look at your kind of your mistakes. But the thing is that what no one really seems to do is that they don't ever focus on their strengths at all. And they kind of just forget about them and they're just like only thinking about their negatives as a player and they're kind of their weaknesses, which like you should never do that, guys. If you want to play your best, you need to always be confident in your own skills. And the thing is, like, a lot of people lose confidence in their skill because they're always thinking about their weaknesses. Like it's very easy for me as a GC3, peak player to think about myself as a bad player if I'm only focusing on my weaknesses, right? Like the weaknesses I said before, like, oh, if I focus on the fact that I'm always, I'm too close to my teammates, the last man, I'm not looking at my opponents, I'm just banging the ball for no reason, like, I'm not taking time. Like, if I say things like that, then, like, I could make myself sound like an idiot and I could make myself seem like a bad player. But, like, the thing is, that's just not helpful to anyone, right? So the thing is, what you actually want to do is you want to be aware of both your weaknesses and your strengths, right? So like I know that even though I might have those weaknesses right now, I do have strengths, right? I have a really good ground game. I think I'm really good at flicks. I'm also really good at taking 50s. I'm also, I think, pretty good at aerial mechanics. I'm good at reading the play and understanding what the play is, right? I'm, I think, good at, a lot of things, right? So it's basically like you need to think actively about the things that you're doing. What is working for you, right? For me, through the ranks, I was actively using flicks all the time to rank up. I was carrying myself because of my ground game. I was really, really bad in the air, and I knew that was my weakness. But instead of just focusing on that weakness and, getting kind of losing confidence about it and, getting like discouraged over it or something, I was working on it. And while I was working on it, I was also, doing my strengths, right? So I was doing this in Champ 1, and Champ 2, and Champ 3, right? In that kind of area, I was, like, especially kind of focusing on my flicks, and Diamond 3 as well. I was, doing flicks like this. And the thing is, like, with strengths and weaknesses, people always say, and, kind of like I said in the last tip, you want to work on your weaknesses, right? Like, a player is only as good as their weakest skill is, right? Like, it's kind of the way a lot of people look at it. And I do agree, right? You do need to work on your weaknesses and your mistakes. But that should not mean that you should take away focus from your strengths, right? I think you should always keep improving on your strengths as a player because that's what separates you from other players. So, for example, if you're really like, like me, like you're really good on the ground or not really good in the air, you should be working on your aerial play. You should be working on your aerial car control and your aerial mechanics. But that does not mean that you should lose that identity, as a really good grounded player. Like you should still be focusing on your strengths as well and putting in the work on those. Like I'm still nowadays, like in the last few days, I've been spamming flicks again. Because the thing is, like, if I can rock at like 116 kph flicks like that, then who's gonna save them? No one, right? So the thing is, like, even if you think you're already good at something, you can always get a lot better at it. Like, especially, if you're not really like the highest rank, like if you're in the mid ranks or, even up to like, bro, I'm in GC like 3. Like, I still have a lot, literally on like pretty much every skill. I think full mastery of a mechanic does not come until like SSL, like high SSL probably even. Like low SSLs probably still don't even have like complete mastery of like most mechanics, or well, like really even like more than one mechanic, if even any, right? So it's like you always want to work on your strengths as well. Now, I would say as far as how you kind of allocate that time, you should be spending, in my opinion, more time on your kind of weaknesses than your strengths, which is why, you'll see me in free play going for aerial mechanics way more than you'll see me go for flicks. And because, I do think my aerial play is still a bigger weakness than my ground play. So it's like I will still train my weakness more a little bit, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna, leave my strength kind of in the dark or kind of, leave it unattended. Because the thing is, if you don't ever train them, your strengths, eventually they might not be your strengths anymore, right? Like if you're really good at flicks, but then you don't train flicks for months, you're not gonna be good at flicks anymore. And it's the same way with your weaknesses, kind of, in a different light, where it's like, if you're really weak at something, but you don't train it, you're never going to get good at it. Like, I was really bad at doing musty flicks, and now I've just hit like 3 in a row, which are like pretty good musty flicks, in my opinion. Right? Which the thing is, like, you need to put in hours into, improving at everything in the game, obviously. But, like, just because you are working on your weaknesses doesn't mean that you should not work on your strengths. Right? Because, again, the better your strength is, the more confidence you can like take from that. Like I'm a lot more confident on the ground if my flicks feel really good. So like if I'm warming up, I always warm up my flicks. It's one of the specific things that I warm up because I want to feel confident in my ground game when I'm in my rank games. Right? I don't want to feel in my rank games that like, oh, my one strength or one of my like main strengths or something. Oh, that's not even like, very good today. Like that's if you feel like that, then you're gonna have no confidence while you're playing the game, right? So instead you want to be feeling good in your sessions, in your strengths, because that's what's going to give you that confidence. Like if I'm right now going into a rank game and I have a ground play, like you think I'm going to be not confident? No, of course I'm going to be playing like incredibly well, purely because I'm doing flicks like this in free play. Like look at this. Like who's saving this? No one, right? So it's like that's what you need to do. You need to train your strengths in a way that also helps them, firstly stay strengths, secondly improve, even to bigger strengths, and third, to just feel good in them, as you're about to play. So now the next tip that I have for you is a very interesting one, right? Which is that a lot of people won't like, and it's that you should play mostly solo queue. And I believe this is a thing, and has been a thing and is a thing in all games, really. I think but especially in Rocket League, um, I think you improve more when you play solo queue. And the reason for that is because when you're playing partied up with your friend, which I know a lot of people love to do, and I'm gonna preface this by saying I'm not telling you guys to not play with your friends. I play with my friends, you know, I'm no different. But most of my games are still in solo queue every single season. And the reason I can tell you that I think that has been, very, very like kind of effective for me the last few seasons is because whenever you're partied up, you know your friend, right? So you are gonna be kind of aware of their play style, and you're gonna know how they play. You're gonna know, which balls they usually go for, how far they position away from you, when they decide to pass, or maybe they don't, they're not a passer at all and they're gonna solo fly. You're gonna know how to play and position and make decisions, and literally everything about your decision making is going to be, at least even if you don't think about it, in your subconscious, it's going to be based off of how they play as well. And the thing is, if your teammate's always the same, then you're going to always play the same as well, which leads to you not learning other play styles. And the thing is, if you truly want to improve at the game, and you're not going to, literally just play partied up forever, and eventually, you might have to solo queue, then you're going to be a worse player. Which is why, like, I had a lot of these people kind of, asking, like, and have these, there's these people who think that, well, I'm plat and I played with my diamond friend, or I'm diamond and I played with my champ friend, or I'm champ and I played with my GC friend, and I, did well. And then they think it's because that they're better at higher ranks or something. No. You're playing better because you're playing with a playstyle that you know how to read already, that you don't have to adapt your playstyle to, because you already know how they play. You've already, like, got the experience. If we were to put, these same people into solo queue lobbies in that same high rank, they would get destroyed repeatedly because they wouldn't have experience with those teammates, but they would still be in those harder lobbies. So the thing is, if you want to improve at the game in the highest level of speed, you need to play every kind of playstyle, and that's what solo queue will teach you, right? If your teammate is a super, crazy ball chaser, you're gonna learn the playstyle of, being a little bit more passive and a little bit more supportive. If your teammate's always really far back and, doesn't like challenging, you're gonna learn to force a lot for them. If your teammate is a super kind of, a player who likes to bang the ball, maybe you'll learn how to position around that. Maybe your teammate doesn't go for demos ever, so then you learn to, be a little bit more demo heavy. Whatever it might be, there are literally like infinite examples in the game. If you only play with one playstyle, you will only ever play one playstyle yourself. So to actually improve at any and all skills in the game, you need to, again, get reps in, practice those. And if you don't practice those, which you won't if you're partied up, then you're not going to get better, at least not as quickly. So I'm not telling you to not play with your friends. I'm not saying it's bad to play partied up. I'm not saying you won't improve if you play partied up. But I am saying that in the times of most improvement, there is a common denominator, in my opinion, of solo queue. So I think you guys should just solo queue more. You can play ranked with your friends, but most of your games should be in solo queue. Doesn't have to be all of them, but I would say more than half of your games, right? And now the last kind of final tip that I have in this video for you guys, which is kind of a special one for me, because I think, again, this one applies to literally everything in life, and there's not one thing that it doesn't work for, but it's really effective in Rocket League, which is that the more you put in, the more you get out. And that's a quote by Rich Piana, a person who kind of was very dedicated into everything he did. And I think the fact that, the more you put in to anything, the more you do get out of it. And the thing is, like, if you think about that, it's true, right? The more dedicated you are to something, the more results you're going to get. The people who half-ass it, for example, as, in sports, right? The people who, seem to have, what people call talent. They have all the talent in the world, but they don't work hard. Well, those people are just not putting in enough, and that's why they're not getting out enough, right? So if you're in a rank that you don't want to be in, if you're seeing seeing progress too slow, and you want to see more progress, or you want to see faster progress, just put in more, right? It's as simple as that, because the more you do anything, the better you will get at it, because you'll get better at the skill of getting better as well, right? So, like, if I want to improve my game sense, if I watch one twos video of a pro player playing twos every single day, I'm going to improve at twos decision making so much faster than the guy who's watching maybe one, pro twos game a week rather than one a day, right? Now, again, with anything, mechanics training, for example, if I'm training, an hour a day in free play, I don't know how long this video has even been so far, but let's say I train an hour a day in free play. Compare that to the guy who trains 0 hours in free play, right? I'm going to get a lot more out of it. Compare it to the guy who's doing 2 hours of free play when I'm doing 1. Maybe he gets way more out of it. There is the component, of course, of always, as I said in the previous tip, of intention, right? So purely just more hours by itself, yes, will not get you more results, right? If you put in 12-hour days, that could be more hours, or, well, it is more hours than, let's say 4 hours a day. But the quality will also, always be lower. But the thing is, you should not be worrying about putting in too many hours and having those hours be low quality, but you should rather be focusing on just doing more. Because the order you do things is firstly you do more, you just do, way more, and you do a lot of what you're doing, and then you do better, right? So firstly, you play a bunch of ranked games, and you realize, how the game works, and then you learn how to train, right? And then you start training those things. So it's a process that always begins with doing more. So you have to do stuff. For example, in the process that I improved super quickly, I went from, in 2 months, I went from GC1 1460 MMR peak and, like a 1400 current. I went to 1750, right? I went to 1750 and GC3. Or no, sorry, 1711, or no, 1715 and GC3, right? So like one game into GC3. Yeah, that was 2 months apart, and in that time, I was playing like 80 hours past 2. So that means 80 hours past 2 weeks, which means 40 hours a week, which means basically a full-time job, right? And now a lot of people are going to be like, all this for a video game, doing too much, whatever. Like, I don't care. But the point I'm trying to make is not that you need to have no life and never touch grass again and just be on Rocket League 12 hours a day. But what I'm saying is that you need to make a conscious decision of how badly do you want to improve at this game? How badly do you want to reach, whatever rank? I really want to hit SSL, which is why I'm putting in a lot of hours. If you don't want to hit a higher rank, that's completely fine. You don't need to play as many hours. But if you're, this deep into this video, I assume that you're, a person who does want to rank up and does want it a fair bit, right? So if you want it, just put in more. Like, you have to be willing to do that if you really want to get better. So, like, look at all the different ways that you could put in more. Maybe, it's actually, just ranked games per day, right? Maybe you're only playing like 5 ranked games a day. You could increase that to 10, right? That's already double. And the thing is, like, in terms of hours, right? 5 games of ranked added more to your day with like 7 games or 7 minutes per game. It literally is like 35 minutes more, right? It's not that much, right? So maybe you double it. Then maybe eventually you triple it, right? You go to 15. Maybe eventually you go to 20, whatever. Maybe then you find that at 25 games a day, that's kind of your max. Anything more than 25 games a day, you'll just kind of, lose the focus and lose the intention. Then guess what? Now you've maxed out that field, right? And you've kind of found your limit. So then you stop doing it. And you go to another thing. So then you go and you think, okay, well, what else can I put more into? What else can I, do better? And what can I do more of? And then you think, okay, well, I could analyze my replays more, right? So instead of now watching, 1 replay a week, maybe I'm watching 2 replays a week, or maybe, I'm going from 0 replays a week to 1 replay a week, right? Whatever. And then maybe eventually I can again have like 2 replays a week. Maybe I can have 3 replays a week, whatever. But then you find, okay, any more than 3 replays a week is too much. So then you move on to the next thing and you're like, okay, how much mechanics training do I do per day? Well, right now I'm doing 30 minutes a day. Well, maybe we can double that. Maybe we can get it to 1 hour. Okay, you get it to 1 hour. Okay, maybe we can get it to an hour and a half. And then you realize, okay, an hour and a half is like the most I can do, because after that I'm like really tired and I'm like I don't really enjoy it anymore. I'm kind of just pushing myself through it, and I'm not really enjoying it. So then you find your limits. Like this is what you should do, in my opinion, if you want to improve at this game in the fastest amount of time, right? Like you can do whatever you want. You don't need to have these kinds of intentions to improve. Don't get me wrong. Like all of this stuff is not necessary for improvement, right? It's a lot easier to improve, but this is to improve optimally and as quickly as possible, right? Because the thing is, if you just put in 15,000 hours into the game, but you don't apply any of the tips and you don't kind of think very, and you don't play intentionally, you could still get to like GC in like 10,000 hours, 5,000 hours, whatever. But the thing is, you could also get there in like half the time, or 5 times less time, or 4 times less time, or whatever, if you just put in the effort. So it's really all about how bad you want it, and the more you put in, the more you do get out. So that's that. Now, so this is kind of that was the last tip, and it's basically the end of this video now. If you guys reached all the way to the end, you're just a goat. You guys are the absolute goats, and I hope this video helped you. If you are interested, if you like if you enjoyed this video, right, and you kind of like how I explain things, what my thought processes are and stuff like that, then make sure to check me out on Metafy, right? I'm a coach. I do replay reviews where I just kind of go through people's games and I kind of give them their mistakes, and I tell them how to fix them and all that good stuff. So if you're interested in that, check out the first link in the description, right? I do appreciate it a lot. And thank you again for watching, all the way over here. It means that, and it shows me that you are willing to kind of, like I said in the last tip, willing to put in more, right, than most people, because most people never make it to the end of this video. So I do appreciate it. And yeah, good luck in your games, guys. And I will see you all in the next video. So peace out.